Welcome everyone. I'm B from Our Dream, Our Purpose. And in a lot of videos I do a lot of melting. I really try to do a lot of forming, just testing different things, what you've seen. One thing you haven't seen is where I get a lot from. Early on I did a couple, but where I get a lot from. What you see here is I've actually got, this is an old motor and fans that would have went over top of a garage door or an opening in a grocery store, blow the air straight down as you walk in. It lost its entire structure. It was rusted. It was rotted away. So I'm going to actually tear that down. I don't think there's much in the fans at all, but the motor itself should have some copper in it, potentially aluminum in it. There is some wiring. We'll tear that, strip that down. I got a motor here. It's a bad motor. I actually started stripping it down already and then put it on the shelf. So I figured today I'll finish it up. This is actually out of a power washer. It's aluminum casing. So we'll tear that apart and see what we can get out of it. Should have some, at least out of these items, some copper and some aluminum. So we'll give you an opportunity to see how we tear some down.
Sneak peek at the final product.
And go from there. All right, let's get it started.
So here I'm just tearing this down, and everything you do is a little different. I try to keep a little tool set on the side, but I'm not too far away from my toolboxes, so you'll see me stepping apart from time to time just to get a tool I didn't expect. A lot of times when I'm doing motors or something like that, I'll save them up and do them all at one time. But what I'm doing here is this motor actually has a shaft that goes all the way through it, and it has two fans on either side. So I'm taking the shells apart, and now I'm actually cutting the shafts so I can take those fans just completely off. There's no copper or aluminum inside those, so if I don't see a need, and I don't right now for anything, I'll just scrap those out later to the actual scrap yard not far from where I live. What I'm doing here is actually taking the motor apart. The outer parts on a lot of motors are aluminum. The pieces on the very ends, and you'll find some on the inside as well, but the ones on the end is real I'm focused on here, and just trying to get it apart so it's easy to tear down.
Putting the nuts and bolts back together. So if I ever need a nut and bolt match, I find the bolt the size I need. If it's got the nut on it, I don't have to look for it. Makes it easy.
So as I'm tearing the motor apart here, what I'm really trying to do is get everything torn down as much as humanly possible on this table. I will take it over to a vise I have on a separate table. You'll see me get the copper out, but I'm really trying to take as much apart here as I can. Just give me opportunity to make it a little easier, and I'll move the metal to one table, take the aluminum and copper over so I can tear it down some more. So we'll go from there. I hope you enjoy.
Alright, let's get on the second motor. And as mentioned, this should come apart. See how that came off? There's still a little metal piece inside there again. We'll take over to the vise and pop that out and then cut that in half so we can actually get it in the crucible itself.
This originally was taken out of, I believe, a washer or dryer, and it was partly taken apart, so you've seen the ends come off real easy. It's because I'd already had the bolts taken out of it.
Again, it's the same as the other one. I'll actually take this over to the vise. We'll cut this off all the way around. That'll be able to melt that. And we'll push the other ones down through. Now let's get to this.
Now this here is what I thought to be what I would consider a pump out of a power washer. I didn't expect, so the outer shell is all aluminum. So what I'm taking apart there is different aluminum pieces. It's the, what I'd call the pump part of it. But what surprised me is when I got down to the bottom part, it essentially was an electric motor, just like everything else. So I had copper in it. I didn't expect any copper to come out of here. I'm not sure why I didn't expect that, but I just saw this as a pump. There's some fluid in it, but really that lower part of it was essentially an electric motor. So when we get over to the vise, I actually am able to cut that outer part off and go from there. You saw me cutting some of the other shells. It's just easier to get it out. It's pressed in there pretty good, so I just do a slice down the side. The pressure just allows it to come apart and out of it pretty easy, and I'll do the same over on the vise when I get to that point, which is now, that's the same thing you just saw at the table. And really what I'm doing with just with a cutoff wheel is cutting sections out of it. I knew there was a gap on the inside there. So I'm just cutting pieces out and gonna really get the copper motor inside out of that. And then I'll save all of this copper, all of the aluminum, put it in one pile, and I'll get the copper out and put it in the second pile. So let's watch a little bit of this, and I'll get back and explain a little bit more as we go along. You see me cutting up some of the pieces here. What I'm really doing that for is just so I can make this small enough to fit in the crucible. The round edges to the motors were just too big to fit in there, so just want to cut a little bit of them off so it fits in the crucible easier. It just allows for melting to be a little easier. I am in the future going to build a larger melting pot where I can put different items in there, melt them down, and then refine the metals from there. So as I'm taking these bearings out and different miscellaneous things, you'll see there was some oil inside this pump. So I tried getting the oil out, the grease out, different things. Used a brake cleaner to even clean it. Try to get as clean as I can. Now when it goes into the crucible, and you see it melting, you'll see a lot of smoke coming out from time to time. And what that smoke is this oil's burning off. So just to give you a heads up when you see some of that's what you're seeing. What you're seeing here is what I talked about with every motor. I try to cut off the ends. Now this one I didn't cut as close to the metal as I should have. The closer you cut to it, the easier it is to actually knock it out. So one other thing you'll see here, so I'm using an air hammer, an air chisel, which is great. But you see the piece moving. That vise is actually a vise off of a milling machine, and it is a great vise. Everything I use it for, it works perfectly. But this here, it's not deep enough. I really needed a deeper one to where I could actually hold that in place and press everything out the bottom. I have one, it was not set up, but definitely the next time that's what I'll be using because this moved around a lot more than I really wanted to. And I struggled with the first one. You'll see as we go through the second and third one, it actually goes a lot better. Just you learn again. I haven't done this for a little while. Motors, I used to do them quite a bit, but I haven't done it for a little bit. So just getting back into it again. The second and third one went a lot quicker. But we'll watch a little bit more, and then I'll give a little more explanation as we go along. Now what you're seeing here, I do not recommend. So what I did is actually cut this in half, and really those are in there individually. Yes, you can get to them easier on the inside, but I highly recommend you just keeping everything in one piece, cutting the end off smoother, and then just pushing it through enough, and then pulling it through on the other side. When you go to pull through, you're going to have a a handful, I call it, but so many strands going through there. Instead of trying to pull the whole thing through, just try pulling a quarter or a third of the strands through. Once you get the first few through, then the rest of them come through pretty easy. But again, I did a few things on that first one. It was tough. Here's the second one. You can see cutting it off a little bit closer to that metal part there, and then I can actually just use hammer it through a little bit, and then use a screwdriver or pry bar to pull it out the other side. Again, I'll let you watch a little bit of this, and then I'll do a little more. This is a great view of what I was talking about. I cut the ends a lot closer, and I'm using the air chisel just to push through just literally an inch. Then I'll use tools on the other side. You can see actually me pulling some of the copper out, putting it out in the very back of the workbench. I got a little metal bin over there, metal tray I'm putting it into. But literally I'm just pushing it through just enough, and then literally it's probably about an inch it's going in. Nothing major, but it's something that you can see. This was working a lot better than the first go around, so I'll keep doing with this process.
All right, we've got everything torn down. Now, I did it over a couple days. It doesn't take that long once you get a good system. The first motor you saw me doing, struggled with it quite a bit. Ended up pinching it in the vise, and then it just, the copper didn't come out, but the other two came out very successfully. So we've got some aluminum here. We've got some miscellaneous bolts and things like that. I'll put that aside. I won't bother with that for now. I got some wires. I'll also put this aside. What I like to do with the wires is I have a wire stripper, to where I will actually, when I get a bundle of wires, a lot of them, then I'll bring it down and actually send it through. We'll strip it down and melt that. You'll see that in a different video. And then I've got a lot of copper over here that came out of the motors, more than I expected. Some of it still needs cleaned up a little bit, but once I get the furnace going, I'll actually melt the aluminum first. We'll pour those into some bars, and I do have a little coin that I do want to pour into, and it's new, so I want to try it out. So you might get to see that, and then we'll do the copper afterwards. But we'll clear this area out, and we'll get started on the aluminum and do the copper. All right, let's see it done.
This is just me setting up the area. I'd like to get the furnace in place and then get it started and running, because it takes a little while to set it to warm up and to melt, start melting. So while I'm doing that, I can set up everything else, get it in place. Here's just getting a close-up view of that aluminum inside there as it's starting to melt. Again, I'm setting up everything that I need. You'll see me use gloves from time to time. You have to around the furnace. If I'm only using one, it's because I know I'm not going to be touching it or getting it close to it. But it does get very warm, so gloves and a good pair of gloves is a necessity in what we're doing. So always got to focus on being safe. But you'll see me reaching over there. What it is, a little pair of pliers I have that actually will drop in the aluminum in the top. You see a little smoke there, as I talked about earlier. Some of the pieces had an oil or grease on it, and that's really what it is. So let's keep working on it. Now, as I'm pulling these out, these are the tools I use to pull these out. This is a larger crucible. It has aluminum in it, so it's not as heavy. In the past, I've done it with bronze and copper, and it is very heavy. So you'll see later I actually use a smaller crucible for this, for the copper, because it's a heavier weight. This is just a little close-up of the pour. I typically will pour the bars first, but you'll see on the very end there's a coin I want to come over and pour. So I'll get a couple bars out of this and a coin, and then I'll let it cool, because I want a couple different coins onto this, see how it goes and try it. So Let's just keep watching. So this is a second pour here with all of the aluminum from those motors. I was surprised to get this much aluminum. Ended up getting about 3.5 to 4 bars. These are larger bars, so I was very happy with what I got out of it. And then I got 2 coins out of the deal. These are just some new coins. You'll see it at the end, a little better detail, but just some new coins that I got. Wanted to try and see how they turned out, so I did a couple of these and then some more of the copper. So I'm using a smaller crucible here. Just the weight of the copper makes it a lot better for me to manage as we're going through. So I'll fill that up with just some the pieces, the copper pieces. Actually, I'm balling it up so it actually fits in there better. So you'll see me doing that throughout. What I'm also doing here is just cooling off the last bit of the aluminum pour, putting it in water. It's a bucket of water I have there. And you'll get to see all the product towards the end. But again, I'm just balling it up. You'll see smoke from time to time, and that is just purely the different items that are on the copper melting off. So you can see on this crucible, when I pull this out with the copper, it's a little different, a little brighter color. It's definitely a lot hotter. You have to get a hotter temperature to melt the copper, so when I'm dealing with this, it's a little bit warmer, so I want to be careful. Get the pour done and to get it back on that stone, heat stone. So you see my hands close to it. That glove does warm up, so we just have to be careful with it. But continue pouring. Just really trying to melt all of it down so we can see how much we can actually get out of it. So I mentioned this a few times. The flames you see, again, it's just burning different oils and different things on the outside of the wires. Just putting the last bit of it in. There's some miscellaneous dust, copper dust and things, and metal bin. You're going to see me pour that in now. But just trying to finish the last bit up, and then we can get a good look at it. So I'm showing a pour here, and then I actually give you a close-up of the same pour just so you can see better what I'm doing. The one thing I always throw out there, and it's just not an excuse, but it is, my depth perception is off, so my pours are not always perfect. You can see I'm misaligned a little bit here, so I don't always see it as well, but we got it. Still turned out to be a decent coin, and then another good bar. That was the last bit of what we had. So it was great to do it. Now let's see what it looks like, everything.
All right. So with the copper, let that cool a little bit, put it in the water, and then I'll actually show you what we got out of it. All right, final step in the process, me showing you really what the outcome was. We had two different motors that we tore apart, and then we had a pump which really was inside a motor itself, similar to the other ones. So when we went and tore the motors down, we had three different motors, so a good amount of copper in my opinion, and then the aluminum structures on the motors and the casing. So from an aluminum standpoint, we melted it first. We got 3.5 bars. It's pretty good bars, so I'll say 4 big bars out of it. Also did a couple coins that I just gotten in, just a little bald eagle on it, some stars around the outer edge. So I thought it'd be cool to do that. When it came to the copper, I got 3 copper bars. Now I say that, this was the first pour. I did a pretty good pour, good looking copper. Again, did one of the eagles as well. Second pour is a more goldish color, which to me tells me I got aluminum in there somehow. I verified all the wire was copper wire, no aluminum, but somehow the second pour ended up with that. And then the third pour back to the copper, solid copper on that. Again, wanted to show you where I get some of the metals from. I show you a lot of castings I do. This is some of the area I get the metal from, so we'll keep doing it. Again, melting these bars a little bigger. When we do something aluminum, it typically is bigger. And I've got enough smaller ones right now. These I did smaller because if we're going to do some, we'll do them small. I use a smaller crucible as well, just so I make sure I get better pours for me. So, all right. Again, hit that subscribe button if you like it, notifications. Leave any comments you might have. I'm learning from this, so I enjoy doing it. But if you have any comments, please say, hey, doing good. Hey, you can improve on this, this, and this. Let me know. All right. Again, our dream, our purpose. Thank you everyone for watching.